Hello, my name's Michael Conneely and this is the Astrology and Healing newsletter for July 2019. This is just the video of the newsletter. Below there is the link to the blog post which has far more detail. So listen to what I'm saying now and then go into more detail by clicking on the link to the blog. So the healing part is Maggie talking about contacting and unlocking your inner resources through the use of hypnotherapy. And it's an absolute principle of mine that astrology, which can have magnificent declaration, vast detail and accuracy when it's done well, and that applies to both Vedic astrology and also Western psychodynamic astrology, are useless unless we find ways of healing difficult scripts that are identified, difficult predictive phenomena upcoming for us to work on that are identified. It is absolutely useless really simply going into a vast amount of learned detail and then producing no ways of making personal or spiritual growth. You know, the real purpose of astrology is to point towards situations to create good perception and then to point to appropriate healing modalities, appropriate transformation methods, visionary methods, magical methods. And that's what this Astrology and Healing newsletter is all about. Now, the first big issue of July is obviously the Saturn-Ketu-Pluto conjunction in Vedic Sagittarius. And I've been saying quite a lot about what that amounts to in all the newsletters from January. But the situation briefly is that Saturn and Ketu, the south node of the moon, are retrograding side by side incredibly closely until Saturn turns direct in this November. And it's an unparalleled, fierce energy of reformation. And therefore the call to us is to reform our lives. And of course it was last in Vedic Sagittarius in 1517 when Martin Luther brought about the reformation of religion in Northern Europe, and the Catholic Church was destroyed there by that energy of reformation. So basically Saturn, the Saturn part of the Saturn-Ketu transit, Saturn is calling us to face and recognize our blocks, our scripts that we may be clinging to, consciously or unconsciously, that are no good, that are holding us back for becoming who we were born to be this time. And Saturn's call is for us to exercise patience, diligence, hard work, and even, yes, depending on where Saturn is in your chart, occult perception and work. And if we don't respond to Saturn's demands and imperatives, we're left bereft, damaged, a robot, our life lost. But the twist to the tale is, as I said, Ketu is conjunct Saturn, and Ketu has a fiercely destructive energy. But the fierce destruction is for spiritual purposes. And so, as long as we perceive where certain things in our life must be destroyed, certain blocks and beliefs and patterns, then Ketu blesses us with spiritual realization, achievement of the special sparks we came here to manifest, burning of our negative karmas from past lives and from the mistakes and bad things we've done in this life, the necessary learning processes to advance spiritually in this life. But if we block Ketu's slashing imperative for reformation and change, then the Ketu energy gets angry and we're in trouble. And indeed what we call our life can go for complete meltdown because it's wrong. Okay, the next big issue is the eclipses. There's a solar eclipse on the 2nd of July. And a lunar eclipse on the 16th. And, well, eclipses are the undamming of dammed up energies. Eclipses are earthquakes which happen in the Earth's crust when pressure builds up and builds up and builds up until smash, there's an earthquake. And of course that happens in our life. Now if we are on course for our destiny, these earthquakes, eclipses are good and positive and empowering and opening. But if we're off course, then what we call, this is my life, gets destroyed, potentially, or certainly an area of our life. And so I did a separate video and blog recently on how to interpret the effects of an eclipse in your life. And the key thing is what house in your Vedic birth chart the eclipse falls in. And the fascinating and huge feature of the July eclipses are that they are in the same axis as the Saturn-Ketu-Pluto conjunction. So the solar eclipse is exactly opposite it in Vedic Gemini and intricately intermeshing with it. And the lunar eclipse on the 16th of July occurs in Sagittarius and Gemini. So if you have... So basically look at what houses Vedic Sagittarius and Vedic Gemini in your chart. And if you have planets in Vedic Sagittarius and Vedic Gemini, expect revelation, massive opening, inspiration and empowerment, or smashing of the restrictive, false, unnecessary barriers and blocks in your consciousness and your life. And I've done a second video about the solar eclipse of the 2nd of July. There's a video and blog for that, and the link is in the blog for this newsletter. And I will be doing a report on the lunar eclipse of the 16th of July nearer the time. So the third big issue I would highlight for July, which of course applies at any point, is the need to do something about the perception that Vedic astrology and Western psychodynamic astrology and certainly most areas of evolutionary astrology can offer. And so I'm majoring on healing modalities, vision work with deities and magical techniques. And so as I said, there's just little point developing whole pages of astrological declaration and analysis unless it points to opportunities for becoming who we're meant to be, for healing, for empowerment, for the maximization of our connection to the divine. So have a look at the blog and also at the blog and the video that I did on the solar eclipse, which talks about these methods. And I've been doing wonderful journeys with people. You can email me if you want a journey. And so, for example, a wonderful journey is contacting Pluto. Pluto as the abyss into which we must descend if we are to be rid of our baggage of sorrows, guilt, pains, wounds and secrets, so that we can then arise unburdened and experience Pluto as Kether, the crown chakra, receiving and connected to the divine light. Jupiter's in some difficulties for a couple of years, and it can be very good to make vision contact with Jupiter to boost your connection to the divine dimension of the planet Jupiter, blessing and purpose and so forth. Now, the fourth issue I've mentioned in my newsletter is create a positive haven. Last month, June, there were obviously incredibly tense energies. The tension levels in the body and mind could well have got much greater, depending upon where the Saturn Ketu Pluto is in your chart. Well, last month there was a positive and beautiful haven in that Venus was transiting through Vedic Taurus. And so I had on the wall a picture of great goddess Lakshmi, and every morning I lit a candle, and every morning I spoke to her from the heart and grew, therefore, in relation to the Venus in Virgo and Lakshmi principles of comfort, wealth, happiness and pleasure. Well, there isn't that this month. The energies are more tense, more explosive because of the two eclipses, and Venus is no longer in Vedic Taurus. So what I am suggesting is that you select, and if necessary with my help, get in touch with me, a very much needed positive haven of strength and healing. And so what I have done, I have thanked great goddess Lakshmi from the bottom of my heart, and have now put up a picture of Chiron, the wounded healer. There's a copy of it in the blog post, because I now feel I have learned quite a measure of great goddess Lakshmi's generous gift and insight and energy. And I now feel I'm on like a path of stronger healing. I myself have Chiron conjunct Mars in my birth chart. And it just came to me that that is the haven I need to focus on. Lighting a candle before that, that image of Chiron, the wounded healer, every morning, and talking from the heart to Chiron, the wounded healer, about my progress and my failings as I progress through the month of July. And incidentally, I learned all about deity work when I did a 5-year university-based social anthropology field study, an ethnography of spiritual forms new to the modern West. And it focused on Hinduism, Buddhism, paganism, shamanism and utopian community. And so particularly from Tibetan Buddhism and from Hinduism, but also paganism, I learned like an awful lot about the immeasurable benefits of visionary contact with gods and goddesses, facets of the divine, beings on the threshold of the sacred. And like a very able student on my prediction course suggested to me, well, ought I maybe to concentrate on visionary work with Saturn soon? And the reason she suggested that is because I am now in Jupiter-Saturn dasher, Jupiter major period and Saturn sub-period within that. And I thank her for that, because that sowed a seed. And indeed, I believe that I am now building up after Chiron to deepen my connection with Lord Shani, the divine dimension of Saturn, his challenges, his gifts, his harvest and rewards. This is wonderful work to do, and it takes the brilliant analysis of Vedic astrology into another dimension. And of course one would also look at the position of Saturn within one's Western chart. And I particularly use Megastar's psychodynamic astrology program, and it has two wonderful predictive periods that indeed I use in every predictive reading I do. So do book a reading with me on my starwheelastrology.com website. The first of the predictive age points in Megastar are the individuation age point, where we get to experience and know the fullness of our psychological self, all the personalities and sub-personalities and how they interrelate, chart aspect shapes and how they get activated and what they mean. And then there's the nodal age point, which charts the focus of the whisper of your soul to you from the astral, and that gives supreme valuable guidance. Very powerful, accurate method, and I use it in my readings. So I've mentioned the main points. A point I could have included in the main point is that Mercury and Mars are in a horrible mess in Vedic Cancer for part of the month. Particularly when Mercury is retrograding over Mars, and Mars makes such a sort of mess of being in Cancer, because Cancer is a water sign and Mars is fire and gets all het up and steamy. So the big message there, it isn't on the scale of the other big points I've mentioned, but it is very important. Try to avoid arguments. Try to avoid intemperate speech and impatience. Be aware that when Mercury is retrograde, there's all the usual problems about travel and IT and post and communications. And remember, that does not end when the retrograde of Mercury ends. It only ends when Mercury gets back to its pre-retrogradation position. And the dates of all that are in the blog. So I think I'd want to conclude with a very interesting little piece provided by a colleague of mine, with whom I'm shortly going to put many modules on the websites which you can subscribe to do visionary work with the deities of planets. Just for one example, all of it cross-relating to your natal and predictive astrology. Magical transformation work, for example, necessary clearing work, necessary empowerment. And so what she wrote is that she's experiencing with this Saturn-Ketu conjunction that I mentioned, that is big until November and continues beyond that, even when Saturn turns the other way and starts going direct again from November. The Ketu test. I have 3 doors that I see. Door number 1, I know my outcome. Door number 2, it gives me everything I want in life materially. Door number 3 is entirely unknown and has just randomly appeared. And so she meditated on those 3 doors, the continuation of the present, going for the material and opening to the unknown. And she saw the only door that Ketu cares about is the one that is rooted in spirituality. I have to choose a door. I have to choose soon. If I choose wrong, I will lose all and will be forced to learn through loss and suffering. If I choose right, I don't really know. But I have now seen that my test is on one particular topic, one personal life area, and getting that topic, that life area, divinely correct. Not just right, as in so, but as in soul purpose correct, correct in truth, and correct by divine standards. I know where I'm going. I stay the course, soul north right, but I'm scared and nothing makes sense, except that writing this makes perfect sense. It's scaring the hell out of me, yikes. but I'll stay on course. So read the blog, contact me for a reading using the link from the blog to my starwheelastrology.com website, and maybe book in a vision journey to meet a planetary deity if there's a planet you feel you really need to sort out or improve the presence of in your consciousness. Contact me, again by email, if you feel there's some magical empowerment or vision work that you really would benefit to do now, that you need to do now, so as to turn this tense opportunity of these two eclipses and the Saturn-Pluto conjunction into inspiration, empowerment, success. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.